O'Malley, owner of the Dodgers, second, and of course Tommy Lasorda, waving and cheering as he always will, is the manager, first coming through the people. Fred Clare, the general manager, behind him. And finally the players, the first of which is Rick Dempsey, of course, whose career was resurrected here in Los Angeles. Tim Leary behind him, Brian Holton, a couple members of the bullpen. I don't know if they're going to come out in any particular order. That's probably not in the game plan. Mike Scioscia coming in, of course. Mike injured his knee in game number 4 of the World Series, will undergo surgery, but it's nothing real serious. Should be back to play next year. You see them all coming along in line. Jeff Hamilton, of course, made the World Series and it becomes a World Series winner as a rookie. Mike Marshall behind him. A great thrill for the players, obviously. You know, it's been 5 days. They've had a chance now to put something in perspective. And here they have to gear up again to face the fans. I think it's a nice moment for them because, again, they've had their quiet celebrations with their families, by themselves, and now they're back out here in the frenzy of the crowd. The crowd, by the way, now beginning to really get much more involved as the Dodgers have come down the steps here at City Hall. It probably won't be too much longer before somebody steps forward and does the business of beginning the introductions of the players. It's just a nice scene. I'm trying to gauge the Dodgers' faces, and it's kind of they're just being quiet, and they got smiles of satisfaction on their face. But other than that, there's really no emotion being shown. Kirk Gibson just appeared in front, and of course gets a gigantic ovation from the crowd. And at that point, along with Mickey Hatcher, at that point, I'll go right back up to you, Rick.
Well, Tommy, obviously the crowd very excited just to see their players up close and personal doing a little waving. Obviously, when you're watching on television, I think you get a little bit of a different perspective than when you can actually see these players in person like they're getting a chance to do today. Steve Sachs and company, one of the most motivated players on the baseball team. He's the kind of guy that people likened him to Pete Rose because of the way he hustles. He and players like Mickey Hatcher, as you're looking at a live shot from our Fox helicopter, those are the type of players, when they draw a walk, they're always running to first base. It is a reason, I think, that for the Dodgers' success. Players like Mickey Hatcher, who are big underdogs, and every time they make a good play or a catch, or when they're diving head first and skinning up their noses, whatever it takes, that inspires other players. A lot of people felt that man there should have maybe gotten the Most Valuable Player award with Oral Hershiser. Who would have thought that Mickey Hatcher would be a star in the World Series? I don't know if Mickey could have told you that himself, but without a doubt, a team effort. And I think it is an effort that deserves the respect that I think they're finally getting. If from anybody else, at least the New York Mets and the Oakland Athletics. Two teams, along with a few others, who many people thought were much better than the Los Angeles Dodgers. The people here, I think, are waiting to hear from their players. Some city and state dignitaries will be approaching the podium and the microphone for some preliminary speeches. And naturally, they'll be followed by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Helicopters above head, not really much room to fly above us, but people are apparently making the effort to get all their aerial camera shots that they can. And Tommy Lasorda and Oral Hershiser are at the podium talking things over. I'll tell you what, those are two guys that are super individuals to deal with. And really, when you talk about things happening to nicer people, they couldn't have happened to a nicer person than Oral Hershiser and Tommy Lasorda. We're going to have more from the steps of City Hall. We're celebrating with the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers.
You know, it looks like we have a couple of minutes. Can we switch around and get a shot of these guys in the trees? I just noticed something else I never noticed before. The trees here at City Hall, for some reason, have numbers on them. Have you noticed that before?
Yeah, they're numbered.
I guess that's so if there's a problem in a tree or a fan in a tree, you want to go right to. You go to tree number 9 or tree number 8.
That's right. There you see Tommy Lasorda, the mayor, and Peter O'Malley seated in the front row. And you see Tommy Lasorda pointing to his watch. Let's go. I've got a commercial endorsement to take care of. Get me out of here.
And I tell you something, I wouldn't mind seeing those guys sitting there every year this time.
Dickinson digital thermometer.
Let's go to Vin Scully on the podium.
You know that.
Today, and as a spokesman for the moment, I would like like to assure you that that love is going from here to you as well. It is only right and proper that the word love should be associated with this year. This is an anniversary year. 30 years ago, the Dodgers and the city of Los Angeles were wedded. And the Dodgers' first president for the city was the championship in 1959. There were diamond rings along the way in 63 and 65, 66 and 74. And then the championship year 81.
No, go ahead, bud.
5.
Division championship in 1985. But we should have realized that this would be a very special year. The sign for the 30th anniversary is the
Budweiser.
Pearl necklace, we knew we were on our way. You will hear from him in a little while. If I may ask you now to take a moment, please, to salute the great country that has afforded us this great sport, which in turn has led to this wonderful day. I would ask you, please, to respectfully join us in our national anthem as played by the UCLA Marching Band. Conducted and directed by Gordon Henderson. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, and our thanks to the UCLA Marching Band directed by Gordon Henderson. I would like to acknowledge those elected officials who are here today and are not involved in presentations. L.A. City Councilman Richard Alatorre, L.A. City Councilwoman Gloria Molina, L.A. City Councilman Hernani Bernardi, L.A. City Councilwoman Joy Pikus, L.A. City Councilman Gilbert Lindsay, L.A. City Councilman Nate Holden, L.A. City Councilman Robert Farrell, L.A. City Attorney James Kenneth Hahn, L.A. City Controller Rick Tuttle, L.A. County District Attorney Ira Reiner, and a few moments ago, Los Angeles County Supervisor Kenneth Hahn.
You're looking at a shot above City Hall as Vin Scully, the voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers, making some of the preliminary announcements here in downtown Los Angeles, a city that's very proud, of course, of their Dodgers, and as fine as the tradition of this baseball team has. You got to also talk a little bit about Vin Scully, who's at the podium. He's been with this team, it seems like, forever, and he's as big a part of this program as anybody. And now the mayor of Los Angeles, Tom Bradley, approaches the podium.
Out there, does L.A. love the Dodgers? Do you believe it now? Does the rest of the world believe it? The L.A. Dodgers are the best. In February of this year, Tommy Lasorda told people that they'd be dancing in the streets in October. In a little while, we're going to ask Tommy to dance for all of us right up here on this platform. The LA Dodgers are the Cinderella team of 1988. They are a team which displayed guts, grit, and a bulldog determination. They are a team that believed in themselves when nobody else would. I remember the first game of the World Series, the 9th inning with 2 outs and a 3-2 count. You remember Kirk Gibson opened the coffin and put the Oakland Athletics in it. When they tried to lift the lid the next day, Oral Hershiser pounded it down again. Every time they tried to get up, some new member of the team pounded the nails in again. Every member of this team is a champion, is a hero. Mickey Hatcher, who hit only 2 home runs all year, pounded them into the earth again. Mike Davis, who many in Oakland said, oh, he'll never do it, laid the wood to that home run up in Oakland again. Steve Sachs, who can hit the ball up the middle, to the right, anywhere he wants. Oral Hershiser put the finishing touches on this whole team, and they're heroes up and down the roster. I'm not going to single out every one of them now, but they have made believers out of the whole world. We're proud of them. They are a Cinderella team, a team of destiny, a team of believers. LA loves the Dodgers, and we're very proud of you, gentlemen. The man who wrote the script and orchestrated every move. It was like Hollywood all over again. Tommy Lasorda. Fred Clare, who made the acquisitions of those members of the team who made the difference in the end. Fred Clare, we thank you very much. Peter O'Malley, the man who heads the greatest athletic organization in the world, a man of class, a man of vision, and the owner of this team, Peter O'Malley. Thank you very much. The City Council and I have a proclamation which we will present to Tommy Lasorda, Peter O'Malley, and to Fred Clare. We'll ask those gentlemen to join us here as soon as John Ferraro, the president of the City Council, completes his remarks. John Ferraro.
Tom, thank you very much. I don't think there's much to be said by a bunch of politicians. It's the Dodger day.
Of course, John Ferraro now at the podium with the Los Angeles City Council.
We have with this proclamation.
Mayor Bradley, Councilman Ferraro.
The owner of the team, Peter O'Malley, is now on the podium. Let's hear from him.
World Championship team and World Championship fans. Thank you.
Peter, I want you to know this is the largest crowd we have ever seen in the history of this city to celebrate a victory of this kind. Let me introduce to you the #1 fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers, my wife, Ethel. Ben Scully, the microphone is yours.
Well, you heard the mayor mention the fact that they've had more people for this turnout of a championship team than in the history of any team.
Already used the words grit and courage and bulldog, and I would like to acknowledge his presence. We mentioned that L.A. County Supervisor Kenneth Hahn had presented the Dodgers with a proclamation, and the good Mr. Hahn is atop the steps who did so much to bring the Dodgers to Los Angeles in the first place. And while we are talking about the Dodgers and the family and Peter O'Malley, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Roland Seidler, a member of the board of directors, Peter's sister, Terry O'Malley Seidler, wearing Dodger blue. There's a lot of pain and a lot of sacrifice involved with the winning not only of a pennant but a World Series. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of determination, and there are tremendous challenges placed before them. And I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the wives who run the homes, who raise the children, who play father role and doctor and nurse and whatever else is necessary for them. And at the same time, when it's all said and done, they immediately take a back seat as their husbands stand in the spotlight. So join me, please, in a rousing chorus of hurrahs for those who rarely hear them and who deserve them so much, the wives and the children of the players in the family. One of the easiest things in the world is to broadcast the doings of a successful team. You hold on with both hands and you fly. And it was a magnificent flight this year of 1988. And I would like to introduce to you the men whose not job, the men whose joy it was to tell you the doings of the '88 Dodgers. My partner and friend, Ross Porter. From KWKW, Jaime Harin and Rene Cardenas. Don Drysdale, who unfortunately is previously occupied, but made his contributions all the way back to 1959, so his name belongs here as well. Then it comes...
All right, we'll have more from City Hall. Dodgers '88, the World Series.
...as well, to keep them on the field, to keep them producing, to keep them playing. I'd like you to meet the Dodger trainer, Bill Buehler, assistant trainer, Charlie Strasser, physical therapist, Pat Screener. Then the men who aid by coaching, the men whose veteranship in the league and in baseball pays off in the long run. Third base coach since 1983 for the Dodgers, a local boy from San Pedro, Joe Amalfitano. The bullpen coach since 1977, Mark Cressy. A Dodger catcher for 11 years, and his name will always be synonymous with the World Series, first as a player in '74 against Oakland, and now as a coach against Oakland in 1988, Joe Ferguson. Dodger hitting instructor, Ben Himes. Baseball's greatest pinch hitter, Manuel Geronimo Mota. In his 8th season as pitching coach, and he stood out like a beacon as far back as 1963, Ron Peronoski. Now let's meet some of the members of the 1988 World Champion Dodgers. An important part of the Dodgers' success story this year. 5 years in the big league, and when they needed him the most, he gave them the most. Dave Anderson. A candidate for Rookie of the Year honors from Sparta, Ohio, now the Galahad from Mount Gilead, Tim Belcher. There is bookkeeping to do in order to present a World Championship team, and some make their contribution prior to the series, and then for reason of numbers and numbers only, they are not on the team. Here is a man who had 4 victories and no losses as a member of the Dodger bullpen crew, Tim Cruz. There were so many storybook stories to this incredible year. How about the man who sat and waited until they were turning the lights off in the office so that he could finally get in and talk to Fred Clare? And what a contribution he made. Dodger catcher Rick Dempsey. He has the grace, the ability, and above all the youth to be playing in the Dodger outfield for years to come, Jose Gonzalez. Our next Dodger, another hope for the future. He joined the ball club in September. His brother, a more illustrious name, and yet the Dodgers feel you'll know and love him too, outfielder Chris Gwynn. A dramatic 9th-inning 2-run home run in September against the Reds. Seems so long ago, and yet it was one of the great highlights of the year. Dodger third baseman Jeff Hamilton. They hardly knew him in these parts when the year began, but he was magnificent in a magnificent Dodger bullpen. Relief specialist Brian Holton. Acquired from the White Sox in August, averaged almost 1 strikeout per inning during his short stint. He has found a home, and we welcome Ricky Horton. He had more saves than any Dodger pitcher in 10 years. The leader of the Dodger bullpen corps, Jay Howell. Winner of 17 games, this Dodger delivered shutouts and wins when the going got the toughest. Right-hander Tim Leary. In his 7th Major League season, he set an L.A. Dodger record with his 6th career Grand Slam, Mike Marshall. It is not enough to rest on your laurels. In the business of baseball, you must look ahead. And the Dodgers look ahead to a 20-year-old youngster from the Dominican Republic, Ramon Martinez. And while we still have our Spanish accent intact, he had an earned run average of less than 2. He picked up 2 victories in postseason play. Some kind of guy, Alejandro Peña. They started to call them the stuntmen very early in the year. And one of the great stuntmen, one of the great stories of all stuntmen, is the finale of '88, the World's Championship, and this love-in that we have today. A youngster who sat quietly on his float, and you can bet you will see him many, many times in the future. Infielder Mike Sharperson. He had the longest hitting streak in the big leagues this year. He could hit a game-winning home run or strike out, and you could never tell the difference. Steady and quiet and unassuming, John Shelby. Our next Dodger slugged a memorable Grand Slam home run. It was a 7-run rally against the St. Louis Cardinals, and suddenly he was silenced until the series, and he made the most of his opportunities. First baseman Franklin Stubbs. 9 major league seasons, a much-needed acquisition to the Dodger pitching staff. Came down with the bad arm at the end of the year. Things are looking up. He is getting married in 2 weeks and celebrating a World's Championship. John Tudor. Can it really have been that long ago when the Dodgers won a championship in 1981, and the year before, the kid, totally unknown, who came from the back of the beyond, became the Cy Young Award winner, the Rookie of the Year, Fernando Valenzuela. This versatile infielder played both third base and first base for the Dodgers, and more importantly, played them well in his second major league season, Tracy Woodson. If there was a key play in the 1988 season, it would probably fill a house of keys. But there was certainly one in New York. In order to get here, the Dodgers had to survive in New York. And there was Dwight Gooden looking absolutely unhittable. And then there was Mike Scioscia. If ever anyone should share in the accolades and the applause, it's the man who took over what appeared to be an impossible assignment. The Dodgers had lost 89 games 2 years in a row, and yet, in his first year as executive vice president, Fred Clare has gotten them to the steps of City Hall. The executive vice president of the Dodgers, Fred Clare. Fred?
Thank you, Vinny. The 1988 Los Angeles Dodgers were a team with a dream. We made the dream come true. The Dodgers are the champions of the world. On the plane ride back from Oakland, one of our players summed it up best. He said, "They said New York was the best team in the National League. They said Oakland was the best team in the American League. We are the best team in the world." The team that is seated on this platform had talent, intense desire, and a dedication to win. It displayed a work ethic that called for sacrifice, that called for day after day persistence. The team could not have accomplished its goals without the other people on this platform, the families, the friends, and the support of the Dodger fans. We thank you for your support. In 1989, our challenge is clearly before us. Few teams in history have ever repeated as World Championship. Our goal, our dedication will be to repeat in 1989 and to be here again. We know that your presence will be with us, and just as it inspires us today, it will inspire us through next year. Thank you.
We mentioned before how it is hard to believe how the years go flying by. Now a grizzled veteran, and yet still looking like it is his first year, the Dodgers had a diamond at second base throughout the year. Steve Sax. Along with Steve Sax, I would just like to ask you to remember, remember a couple of things in the World Series. Number one, just before the most dramatic home run perhaps ever hit anywhere, anytime, this man walked. And then we'll all remember a 3-ball, no-strike count in Oakland, and up came Mike Davis to join Steve.
I'll tell him first. I'll tell you, for a team that was picked 4th in the division, that's a heck of a finish. But it's a lot of different ways to describe our club this year, and one of the themes we had for our club was courage. And Mike Davis and I would like for you to join in and help us with this little phrase. Ready? Okay. What makes a king out of a slave? What makes the flag on the mast to wave? Courage. What makes an elephant thrust his tusks in the misty mist, in the dusty dusk? What makes a muskrat guard his musk? Courage. What makes the lynx the 7th wonder? What makes the dawn come up like thunder? Courage. What puts the hot in hotty tot so hot? What puts the ape in apricot? What have we got that packed this lot? Courage! Yeah. All right. Say something, dude.
I tell you what, I think we can speak for the ball club a little bit. We want to thank each and every member here for supporting us all year long. Without your support, it would have been impossible for us, because we had, I mean, when you look at, they didn't believe in us. They didn't think we can do it. And we kept striving out there, kept fighting against the odds. And you guys kept coming out there and showing us that you believed in us. And it gave us that added incentive to go out and finish the job. And we thank you for that.
Our next speaker will truly represent both sides of the coin here in Los Angeles. By way of Toronto and Oakland, he came to the Dodgers to do one thing they needed desperately, a veteran at shortstop. Senor Alfredo Griffin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I got my excuse now. I'm going to do it the other way. It's easier for me, Spanish. I know it's a lot of you out there. Hey, you see? I know. Okay. Para mí es un placer estar aquí representando a los Dodgers. En verdad me siento muy contento de realizar el sueño de mi vida, ir a una serie mundial, y no podía esperar en un lugar más apropiado que Los Ángeles. Tanta gente hermosa aquí, tantos fanáticos que respaldaron al equipo y ayudaron a todos en conjunto a ganar este año. Salí de Oakland, donde todo el mundo decía que eran los campeones que iban a ganar, pero ya nos dimos cuenta que somos nosotros los campeones. Los Dodgers somos número 1. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Alfredo. Even I got number 1. I have a list of accomplishments for this man, but let me put it to you this way. How can you list determination and enthusiasm, the ability to get dirty, and somehow should be the only player in the major leagues allowed to wear his hat with the cap on the side? Mickey Hatcher.
Ain't this great? I tell you what, this is great. Alfredo, I want to see you after this is over with. I got to know what you said. I tell you what, you know, it's tough for me to explain what's going through me right now, because I tell you what, I'm excited. But the greatest thing I can say is I remember in Game 2 when Tommy Lasorda and I walked by Billy Russell and he gave me the thumbs up in a situation where I thought I was never going to play or get an opportunity to play. And when I went out in that game, I was searching for help. And I just want you guys to know that you were all the help that I needed to play. Thank you very much. I want you to hold your hands up
and be proud of the Dodgers, and we can honestly say we're number one. Thank you.
The only man who could follow the enthusiasm of Mickey Hatcher is a man who has been blessed with the superb gift of enthusiasm for over 37 years in the Dodger organization, the manager, Tommy Lasorda.
Thank you very much, Vinny. Your Honor, Mayor Bradley, our #1 fan, Ethel Bradley, to all the families of our tremendous baseball players, and to the greatest team that this city has ever produced, the 1988 Los Angeles Dodgers. When we went to spring training, we had one goal in mind. It wasn't to just win the division. It wasn't to win the playoffs. It wasn't to get into the World Series, but it was to win the World Series. No one outside of our fans and the baseball team and the Dodger organization ever had a feeling that we could win the division. Pete Rose said, "I'm not worried about the Dodgers. I'm worried about San Francisco and Houston." But he was right. He was right, because when we went 8 games above them, they were tied with San Francisco and Houston. Roger Craig said, "I promised the Giant fans that we'll be in the World Series." He was right. He was there watching us play. Hal Lanier said, "We can beat the Dodgers. We know we can beat them. If we don't beat them, I shouldn't be working here." He's no longer working. And then we went to play the playoffs against a team that beat us 10 out of 11 times. And the whole world said they don't belong on the same field with them. They were right. They didn't belong on the field with us. And then we went in to play in the Fall Classic against a team that won 104 games, the 3rd greatest record in the last 50 years in the major leagues. They didn't want to play the Dodgers. Don Baylor said they wanted to play the best team in the National League East. But who did they play? They played the best team in the National League. We became the world champions because we wanted it more than anyone else. We represent, as far as I'm concerned, the sports capital of the world. And we're mighty proud of all of you who have shown up here today. I want to personally thank the mayor for making this possible. I want to thank the best police force in this country for the wonderful job they did. I want to thank Peter O'Malley for making all of this possible. I want to thank Fred Clare for going out and getting the players. And I want to thank the greatest team that any manager could ever have. And I'm going to say this. At the press conference in February, they asked me to say a few words, and I said, the people in this city better buy tickets because they'll be fighting for tickets in September and October, and that we will all be dancing in the streets of Los Angeles in October. Oh, yeah! Yeah! Oh, yeah! And after each game, wait a minute, after each game, when we come into clubhouse, our theme was, how sweet it is to taste the fruits of victory, and Kurt Gibson, give it to me. What is our theme at the end of each game? Say it one more time. Say it one more time. Say it.
Oh, yeah! How sweet it is! The fruits of victory! Oh, yeah!
What a team!
What a team!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tommy. And ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize, and I'm as disappointed as the rest of you. I have tried so hard to get Tommy to be emotional, to get him up, and I have failed. If the World Series is dramatic, and if the World Series is theatrical, if you can combine the two, you would then get perhaps the greatest single moment in the history of the World Series. It involved our next man, who stood center stage and played his part well, Dodger Kirk Gibson.
Thank you very much. It's kind of a sad day for me, I guess. It's a good day of celebration, but in late January last year, I made the most important decision of my life at that time, and that was to come here and join the city of Los Angeles and the fans and the organization. And I made really a couple of statements that many, I think, quite frankly, laughed at. I said that I thought that the organization was committed to us being world champs. I certainly was here to be world champs, and quite a few people thought I was crazy to say things like that. What I want to say here now is we are the world champs, and I owe a lot to my teammates, the organization, the coaches, because they've made this impossible dream come true. They're the reason why I did somewhat decently in certain occasions this year. They made me feel very comfortable here. It was quite a culture shock for me. But as I said earlier, it was the most important decision I made in my life, and I would like to thank you, the fans, and everybody here in LA for making it the best decision I ever made in my life. Thank you very much. You know, we make a practice, our team, every opponent we played through the whole year, they always were shooting off and doing a lot of talking with their mouths, and we had a real professional club here. We kept our mouths shut, went out in the field and did the job. But right now, we are the world champs, so you guys can talk anything you want. We have the bragging rights till opening day in April, so say plenty.
And then there was one. Ladies and gentlemen, Oral Hershiser.
How sweet it is! I stand here in representation of my whole ball club. And for you gringos out there who didn't understand what Alfredo Griffin said, He said, baseball has been very, very good to the Dodgers. I only have a couple of comments to make. When they added Alfredo Griffin, Rick Dempsey, Jay Howell, Jesse Orozco, the rest of that cast of stuntmen and that bullpen, people think that it's hip to be square, and looking at me, it is now hip to hustle in L.A. It may be still hip to be square, Saxy says. We have brought you a world championship, and from this parade today, and from the season, all the way from game one, the 10th man is alive and well in L.A. And just from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my team's heart, we thank God for the ability, and we thank God for your fans, and we hope we can come back in '89 and do the same thing. Thank you very much.
I cannot miss this.
We got to keep you back.
And so it is finished for the second time in the 1980s. And the fifth time since they moved to Los Angeles, the Dodgers are celebrating here on the steps of City Hall as being the champions of Major League Baseball. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, this is the biggest sports hangout in town. The Raiders have been honored here once in the 80s, the Lakers 3 times, and now the Dodgers twice. It is really and truly amazing what has happened this afternoon. Oral Hershiser coming up. Alfredo Griffin talking about how happy he was to be here. And now Alfredo is going to come down here and join us. Well, Alfredo, world champion, was the parade everything that you thought it would be?
I never dreamed to see something like this today. This is unbelievable. That's great, you know. I can't believe it. Now I know why everybody wants to get to the World Series and win it.
What was it like driving down the streets of Los Angeles in the parade where everybody was hollering and screaming at you?
I feel like Mr. Reagan. I thought it was Mr. Reagan, you know, waving at the people. That's beautiful. I can't believe it. I'll tell you one thing. From today on, this is going to make me play this game harder now because I want to be there every year.
Hey, thank you so much. Congratulations and have fun.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and now the guy who literally had to beg for a job from Fred Claire. Now Fred Claire's going to have to come and beg him to come back and play again next year.
He won't have to beg. It'll be a pleasure to be back here with this Dodger team again. It was one of the greatest teams I think I've ever seen in the history of sports. I was with a great team for a lot of years, the Baltimore Orioles, and we had some great World Series, some great playoffs, some great seasons, but there's something very special about this team because they weren't as good as that, but they had more heart.
And you were able to lend some of your leadership and some of your experience in the real tough days of the season.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't hear what the question was. There's so many people yelling.
Yeah, during the tough days of the season, you were able to lend your leadership and experience to the club.
Well, it wasn't tough to do. You know, a lot of younger guys came to me and asked me, you know, some things during the course of the season. What do I have to do in order to be better than I am? And all I did was not give them advice, but just tell them what some of the great players that I played with have done, like the Eddie Murrays and you know, the Jim Palmers and Steve Stones and guys like that. They took the advice, they went out and they executed.
What in the world is this club going to do now to repeat next year? The pressure's really going to be on. You can't sneak up on anyone now.
Well, I think win, lose, or draw next year, we have to go to the spring training with the same attitude that we went this year, that we have to start all over again, that we're not #1 anymore, that we've got to work just as hard as we did last year, and we have to stay together. That's the biggest key ingredient to this ball club, is staying together, playing together, and winning together.
Where did Lasorda get his speech from this afternoon? From you?
No, he doesn't get any speech of anybody. He's the man that writes the book on speeches because he's just got his heart here in L.A. He's got his heart in baseball, you know, and it's not tough for Tommy to get up there and speak like he speaks because he speaks from the heart, and you can feel it when he gets up there and talks.
And what are you going to do during the offseason? It's got to be tremendously busy for you.
Well, I'll tell you what, a couple of days ago was the first day of the 1988 season. As soon as our season was over, I've already started to prepare myself for 1989. I already started to work out and strengthen myself in the areas I thought I was weakest in. And next year, we're just going to have to put it all back together now. I'm ready to go.
World Series champion. Sounds nice, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds very nice, especially at home after all these years.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Right, Jimmy.
Okay. Okay, that is Rick Dempsey. Let me tell you something, my friends. It has been a marvelous experience for all of us here at Channel 7. We're so glad that you could be with us. And for those of you who are interested, All My Children, which was preempted, will be recapped at 4 o'clock on the 4 o'clock news. So for Rick Lozano, Gene Washington, and Gene Gleason up top in the Air 7, I'm Jim Hill. Thank you so much for watching. So long, everybody. We'll see you at 4 o'clock right here on Channel 7.
This has been an Eyewitness News special report. We join our regular program schedule after these